Hello everyone. So today I'm going to show you how I made these adorable honey and bee pollen macarons here in my Portland Airbnb kitchen. So when I was on this epic road trip with my brother and sister-in-law, we traveled from Minnesota here to Portland, Oregon. It took many days of driving. Thank goodness my brother and sister-in-law are comfortable with mountains, because oh my god, once we hit Montana, it was like out of my comfort zone. Speaking of Montana though, we stopped, was it Bozeman? I think it was. Each day we were driving, my sister-in-law did an amazing job of planning out different places for us to go to stop for coffee or lunch, or once we got to our hotel, like a place nearby for dinner. And especially because of the, as she refers to it, pancetta in the world right now, we really wanted to be going to places that we felt comfortable at, where we could be masked, and if we were inside, and ideally if we were eating and needing to take our masks off, that we would be outside on a patio at the very least. So we tried to be really safe about it. And one of our stops, we kind of wandered around while we were getting lunch, and we found this adorable little like local honey store, and I got some honey and what I sprinkled on the top and what is hiding inside, this bee pollen. Can you see that? Which is actually like super healthy for you, and I didn't know a lot about it, but I was like, okay, I am really feeling inspired. I want to make some macarons. So let me show you exactly those products I used. And in order to really enhance and intensify that honey flavor, I decided to put a little piece of Financier on the inside of these macarons. And if you don't know what Financier is, it is a type of French cake. Usually you see them in tiny little bites, usually smaller than a Madeleine, but that kind of vibe, like a tea cake sort of thing. And a Financier has a ton of egg whites, and it has a ton of honey. That is kind of the main sweetener in there. And so since it naturally has honey in it, I thought, what a perfect cake to use in this macaron to really highlight that honey I got. And then I also, for the first time ever, tried making a bee pollen Financier and adding a ton of that really amazing local bee pollen into these macs. And let me tell you, they are amazing. I'm so happy with the result. My family all love them. So if you also want to highlight some local honey or honey products, or if you're just curious how these might taste, let me just bring you along and show you what I did.
So Montana is a state that is really large, but also there are literally more cows than people who live there, and it is frankly never a place I expected to visit, although the prairie dogs were freaking adorable and I did enjoy some of the mountainous scenery. I also was very pleasantly surprised by Bozeman. It's a really cute little town, and we found some really adorable little shops and cafes and restaurants, one of them being this local honey shop. And specifically, we found all kinds of honey, and there was this one called Meadow Foam that's really intrigued me. So I picked up some of that and some bee pollen, and I just knew I had to bake with it. So I'm gonna start off here by making a Financier, which is honestly one of my favorite kinds of cake. It is so moist and so flavorful, and you can adapt it in so many ways. I'm just obsessed with it. So I I have never tried putting bee pollen in a cake before, but I'm going to. So to start off by making, for a financier, you want to add your honey directly into your egg whites and really emulsify that. If at this point in staying in Portland I had an immersion blender or stick blender, I would have used that. It would have taken 2 seconds. I did not have one, so I just used a whisk and worked perfectly well. Just took me a bit longer. After that was emulsified, and really here I'm just breaking down, egg whites. They kind of are really globby. I'm trying to make this more homogeneous and liquid-like. So after that is liquefied and the honey is completely emulsified in, I'm switching over to focus on browning my butter. Oh yeah, here are some dry ingredients too. Give those a good little stir. So if you've ever made brown butter before, you know that it is not challenging, but if you have not made it before, just know that it's something that in the beginning it will seem to go very slowly, and then all of a sudden you can go from regular butter colored to delicious, amazing brown butter to, oh my god, I burnt it, fairly quickly, especially if you're doing a pretty small batch. So when you're browning butter, you're literally just melting butter in a little saucepan and letting it simmer until it becomes golden brown. So you'll want to give it a little stir, especially because the top of the butter will often look foamy like this, and so it's hard to see really what's happening on the bottom of your saucepan. You're just looking for some little brown bits to form, and you'll usually smell this as well. After you start seeing some golden brown color, you can just take that off the heat and transfer it to a bowl. I'm just going to show you what my brown butter looks like in a clear bowl here, so you can really see the color I got on that and those wonderful little brown bits in the bottom. Financier is also incredibly easy to mix together. It is literally just the honey and egg that we combined before, mixing into all of the dry ingredients all at once, giving that a good mix, and then after that's combined, I'm going to pour in the slightly cooled brown butter. I don't want this scalding hot, but you also do want it to be a liquid so you can stream it in. It's gonna look pretty awkward here because it's really my first time using a hand mixer. Usually I have a stand mixer for this, and it goes much more attractively. I promise I know what I'm doing. Everything's okay. So you just want to mix the butter in until that is homogeneous. Then once all of that's mixed in, I'm gonna add in my bee pollen. Okay, my recipe up until now was just a standard Financier recipe. It always calls for honey, always calls for brown butter, and now I'm just folding in the bee pollen. The other thing about Financier is it really wants to rest in the refrigerator for at least 30 minutes, or even overnight. And so I'm just going to cover that with plastic wrap just to protect the top so that its skin doesn't form, it doesn't get weird or collect any flavors while it's in the refrigerator. And then I'm just going to spread it into a quarter sheet pan, and give it a bake. Now this is going inside my macaron. If you were just going to bake off Financier like normal, you would want to use some kind of like silicone mold or something. Usually Financier are tiny little adorable cakes. You could use like a mini cupcake tin or something about that size for a regular Financier. I also love to put it in tarts and all other kinds of uses. I just think it's phenomenal. So into the oven it goes, just until the top is really golden brown, and when you touch the surface with your fingers, it bounces back and it's not weird and underbaked or overbaked. So I don't know, it's pretty normal cake that way. And I'm just gonna let that cool and then jump over to start my macaron shells. The macaron shells are literally just a standard macaron shell. There is nothing unique about these. I'm using some yellow. I wanted my macs to have like a honey kind of pollen-y look to them. I did end up adding a touch of orange as well to get more of a golden yellow than a lemon yellow. But otherwise, everything is just normal. I'm using a French method meringue, so room temperature egg whites, adding in my sugar, creating a really stiff peak, and then folding in my dry ingredients. Normal, normal, normal. I have so many videos talking about that. If you want more instruction, make sure to check out one of those. Hand mixers for macarons is still very new to me and awkward, and also filming in this kitchen is new to me, so I'm very sorry if any of these angles of filming are horrible. Bear with me, please, and thank you. So it's time to pipe the macarons. And I really thought long and hard about how I wanted to decorate these macs. And in the end, I decided I wanted to drizzle some white chocolate and then sprinkle extra bee pollen just to really enhance that flavor and get that pop of color. Also add a little bit of that white from the white chocolate onto the top. But I really considered, should I just sprinkle the bee pollen on top? What will happen? Will it get weird? I don't know. That might be a fun experiment to try. Otherwise, you could definitely do some kind of swirled shell, or if you have like a little bee or like flower or something, cookie cutter, you could absolutely add some gold decor using the cookie cutter method. Or, oh my gosh, there are so many cute options I can think of. But I decided to just go with these regular circle yellow shells because of the drizzle I want to add later. So I'm just piping, resting, baking these guys, and while that's happening, I'm gonna work on my filling. So for the filling, I had made some other macarons the day before, and so I had some extra vanilla buttercream. I also have that Financier you see. I cut it up into little squares. If I had cookie cutters with me, I definitely would have used a circle cookie cutter just for ease of piping and finishing the macs, but whatever, squares are fine. And I'm just gonna add extra honey that I got at that adorable shop in Bozeman, the Meadow Foam honey, into my vanilla buttercream. I think another option, if you were starting from scratch, maybe you could add some honey into like a Swiss meringue buttercream, substitute out some sugar. I've done that with maple syrup before. I'm sure you could do it with honey as well, though because of the ingredients and things I had on hand, this is what I ended up doing. So I just put that little square of Financier on the inside, piped my honey buttercream around it, and then sandwiched those shells before putting them in the refrigerator for an hour or two, just so they could harden before adding my decoration. You could, if you wanted to do a drizzle and added the pollen and whatever, you could do that before the shells are filled. It kind of just depends on the look you're going for, if you want the white chocolate or whatever to drip over the sides of the entire shell, filling included. So you have a lot of options here too. So I'm just gonna melt my white chocolate, drizzle that on, and while it's still warm and tacky, sprinkle on extra bee pollen. Luckily for me, my family in town was able to enjoy these, and also my parents came into town and we were doing some wine tasting, so they were a wonderful little pairing for that as well. I hope you enjoyed this adventure. I kept asking everyone if these macarons tasted like Montana, which obviously they did not, but they did have this phenomenal honey flavor, and I think everyone really loved them. If you have any local honey you would love to highlight, I think this is an amazing way to do so. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you again next time. Until then, have a wonderful day. Bye.